3 years of marriage. My wife, Elena Vance, claimed she had to work late at the office. I told her I was meeting a client for contract negotiations. As it turned out, we both ended up at Nocturne, the city's most decadent nightclub, only not with each other. She was draped in a haute couture gown, nestled in the arms of a handsome young heir, smiling like a blooming flower. And I was lounging with a stunning, fiery beauty, lifting a glass of impossibly expensive whiskey to her lips. Our eyes locked. The air solidified. I saw the shock in her eyes, the embarrassment, and then that fleeting disgust. Interesting. The deafening bass of the club hammered against everyone's eardrums like the heartbeat of a giant beast. Under the kaleidoscope of strobing lights, young faces, fueled by alcohol and hormones, looked blurred and frantic. The woman in my arms was Sienna Fox. Her crimson dress was little more than a second skin, outlining a figure that could start wars. Her eyes were heavy with seduction, her waist moving like liquid in my grip. She leaned in, her red lips brushing my ear, her breath warm. Sovereign, what act is this? Experiencing the common life? I didn't answer. I just held the whiskey to her lips, my gaze drifting past her to a booth not far away. Elena Vance, my wife. Tonight, she wore a champagne-colored strapless gown, exposing her delicate collarbone and shoulders. Her icy, detached elegance made her look like a white lotus standing alone in the muck of this noise. Except this white lotus was currently snuggled intimately against another man. I knew him, Julian Sterling, a so-called young talent who had recently made a name for himself in Chicago. Relying on his family's connections, he had opened a mid-sized investment firm. Julian was whispering something into Elena's ear, making her smile, a look of tenderness and reliance I hadn't seen once in 3 years of marriage. Before leaving the house, she had told me with a cold face that the company had an emergency project and she would be working all night. And I, with an equally expressionless face, had told her an out-of-town client needed entertaining, so I'd be late. We were like two actors wearing masks, meticulously following our scripts. Until this moment. In this bar, the masks were violently torn away. Our gazes clashed in midair. The smile on Elena's face froze instantly, replaced by shock and indignation. She instinctively tried to pull away from Julian, but his arm tightened around her. He even shot me a look of provocation, a gaze filled with superior scrutiny and undisguised contempt. It was as if he were saying, "You're Elena's useless, waste of space husband?" The curve of my lips deepened. Sienna followed my gaze, then let out a meaningful hum. "Oh, Sovereign, is that the missus?" She blinked, not the least bit awkward. Instead, she tightened her arms around my neck. "Her taste isn't great. That man next to her isn't fit to carry your shoes." "Don't speak out of turn," I said indifferently. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried an unquestionable authority. "She isn't the missus anymore." Sienna paused. Then her smile grew even more enchanting. "Understood. My apologies, sir." Just then, Elena pushed Julian away. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she marched toward me. Her exquisite makeup couldn't hide the anger burning on her icy face. Her eyes were like daggers quenched in poison, glaring at me and Sienna. The music around us seemed to fade. People noticed the commotion. Gaze after gaze turned our way, hungry for drama. "Caleb Stone." Elena stood before me, her voice trembling with rage. "You really are something." I laughed. It was a laugh of pure absurdity. I looked at her righteous, caught you cheating face and found it incredibly ironic. "Right back at you." I released Sienna and stood up slowly. My height created a natural oppression. "Director Vance, working overtime? At Nocturne? This project of yours is quite unique." Elena's face went pale at my retort, but her anger only spiked. "What right do you have to lecture me? Look at you. Who is this trashy woman you're holding?" The moment the words left her mouth, Sienna let out a sharp laugh. "Excuse me, miss." Sienna stepped to my side, linking her arm through mine. She looked Elena up and down, her eyes holding a trace of pity. "Are you talking about me? Trashy?" Before Elena could answer, Julian walked over. He pulled Elena behind him, posturing like a knight in shining armor. "Elena, why waste breath on this kind of person?" Julian pointed a finger at my nose, his face full of arrogance. "Caleb Stone, right? I've heard of you. The Vance family's live-in squatter. A loser making a few thousand a month. What? Did you find a sugar mom to pay for your drinks tonight?" His voice was loud. The surrounding jeers were audible. The loser husband came out to cheat and got caught by the wife. Look at the guy next to his wife. That's Julian Sterling, founder of Sterling Capital. TSK. How can that loser compare? He doesn't even know he's being cuckolded. I could feel Elena stiffen at the comments. Her expression grew uglier. It was shame. She felt I was humiliating her in front of Julian. For 3 years, in her eyes and the eyes of her family, I was synonymous with waste. I ignored Julian's barking. My gaze remained calm, fixed on Elena. Elena, we've been married for 3 years. You know how I've treated you. My voice was cold like ice. I'll ask you one thing. You and him, how long? Elena zayis dojid mine. She didn't dare look at me, but her mouth remained hard. That's none of your business. Worry about yourself first. Good. Very good. I nodded. The last shred of warmth in my heart dissipated completely. 3 years of endurance. 3 years of playing a role. Enough. I had thought that even without love, there would be basic respect between husband and wife. Now I saw it was all my own wishful thinking. In her eyes, I was garbage, something to be discarded at will, humiliated even in front of her lover. Caleb, go home right now. Stop embarrassing me here. Elena saw I wasn't speaking and assumed I was afraid. She resumed her high and mighty posture. Embarrassing you? I laughed, my chest vibrating with it. Elena, you'll find out very soon who is actually embarrassing whom tonight. I stopped looking at her and turned to Julian. You, Julian Sterling, correct? Julian lifted his chin, arrogant to the core. What? Want to beg me to let you off? Too late. You offended Elena. I'll make sure you can't survive in this city. Can't survive? I repeated the words as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke. You? With Sterling Capital. I took out my phone and dialed a number. It was answered instantly. Sovereign, what are your orders? A steady, respectful voice came through the receiver. Winston, I said lightly. My voice wasn't loud, yet the noisy bar seemed to quiet down for a second. Do you know Sterling Capital in Chicago? Sterling Capital? Winston, on the other end, seemed to be rapidly searching for information. Seconds later, he spoke with disdain. A small firm built on flipping a few plots of land. Registered capital of 30 million, debt ratio at 70%. Why does an ant like that dare to provoke you? My gaze swept over Julian's face, which had changed slightly upon hearing the name Winston. I'll give you 10 minutes, I ordered simply. Erase Sterling Capital from the face of the earth. Erase it. As my words fell, a deathly silence descended around the booth. Even the thumping music in the distance seemed unable to penetrate the solidified air. The arrogance on Julian's face froze, as if someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over him. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Elena looked at me like I was a lunatic, her eyes full of absurdity and disbelief. Caleb, are you crazy? She shrieked. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know who Winston Graves is? Who do you think you are? Erase Sterling Capital? Do you think you're filming a TV show? She thought I was bluffing, using a laughable method to salvage my pathetic dignity. The onlookers burst into raucous laughter. Ha ha, this loser has lost his mind, right? Winston? There's only one Winston in this city, Winston Graves. The man who makes Chicago tremble when he stomps his foot. A live-in husband knows Winston Graves? That kills me. After his initial shock, Julian recovered. He pointed at me, laughing until tears nearly formed. Loser, you're a goddamn genius. Act. Keep acting. I want to see how you erase my company in 10 minutes. He turned to Elena, sneering. Elena, this is the man you married? A lunatic who only knows how to brag. I feel sorry for you. Elena bit her lip, her face pale. She felt I had thoroughly humiliated her. She didn't even dare to look at the mocking eyes around us. I ignored the noise. I simply stared at the watch on my wrist, waiting quietly. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The mockery on Julian's face grew thicker. What's wrong? Did your Winston get lost? Or is your phone out of battery? He walked up to me arrogantly and patted my cheek. Trash, stop pretending. Kneel down and apologize to me, and I'll let this go. Otherwise, I guarantee you'll be packing your bags and rolling out of Chicago tomorrow. My eyes went cold. No one touches my face. Just as I was about to move, Sienna moved first. Crack! A crisp, loud slap struck Julian viciously across the face. Sienna moved like lightning, her strength shocking. Julian spun half a circle and landed hard on his backside, half his face swelling up visibly. What kind of thing are you, daring to touch him? Sienna withdrew her hand. Her eyes were as cold as knives. The seductive aura was gone, replaced by a heart-palpitating, killing intent. The room fell silent again. Everyone was stunned by the sudden violence. Julian clutched his face, dazed. Elena was dazed too. She looked at Sienna with fear. How did this woman, whom she had called trashy, possess such a terrifying aura? You dare hit me? Julian finally reacted, pointing at Sienna in shock and rage. Just then, his His phone began to ring frantically. Julian instinctively looked at the caller ID. It was his CFO. Filled with rage, he answered without thinking, screaming, "Fatty Wong, why the hell are you calling now? I'm Busse." On the other end came a voice sobbing with extreme terror. Mr. Sterling, it's bad. It's a disaster. All the company's bank accounts have been frozen. Our stock is being maliciously shorted with billions in capital. It's already hit the limit. We're facing mandatory delisting. And the IRS, the SEC, the fire marshal, a joint task force has just stormed the office. They say we're suspected of serious illegal operations. They're sealing the building. Every sentence from the CFO was like a heavy hammer smashing into Julian's heart. His face went from red to white, then to the gray of death. No. Impossible. His hand shook violently holding the phone. This is absolutely impossible. It's only been a few minutes. He jerked his head up, staring at me as if he were looking at a ghost. I glanced down at my watch. 8 minutes and 30 seconds, I said calmly. Winston's efficiency is slower than I expected. I'll have to have a word with him later. Boom. The sentence exploded in Julian and Elena's minds like a thunderclap. They finally realized I wasn't acting. I wasn't bragging. It was all real. One phone call. Less than 10 minutes. A company worth millions. Gone. Reduced to ash. No. Julian let out a miserable scream. He crawled over like a madman, trying to grab my pant leg. No. Don't. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please. Let me go. Let my company go. That's everything I have. I kicked him away in disgust. Your company? I looked down at him, my eyes devoid of mercy. As of now, it doesn't belong to you anymore. I turned to the petrified Elena. She stood there blankly, looking at Julian paralyzed on the floor like a dead dog, then at me. Her eyes were full of chaos, fear, and a strangeness she couldn't comprehend. Was this man in front of her the waste who had swallowed his pride in her house for 3 years? The live-in husband who cooked and did laundry and didn't dare speak loudly? Elena. I walked up to her, my voice terrifyingly calm. Let's get a divorce. The word divorce fell from my lips lightly, yet it weighed on Elena's heart like a mountain. She snapped back to reality, her body trembling violently as she looked at me in disbelief. What? What did you say? I said divorce. I repeated it, my tone holding no ripple of emotion, as if discussing something unrelated to me. Tomorrow morning at 9, City Hall. I expect you not to be late. With that, I stopped looking at her and turned to leave. Stop, Elena screamed, grabbing my arm. Her nails dug into my flesh. Caleb, explain yourself. Who are you? Why does Winston Graves listen to you? Julian's company. You don't qualify to know. I interrupted her, enunciating every word. From the moment you brought him here to humiliate me, you lost that qualification. I shook her hand off forcefully. Elena stumbled back 2 steps, hitting the cold bar counter, her eyes full of shock and hurt. For 3 years, I had never spoken to her in this tone. I had never looked at her with these eyes. In front of her, I had always been the gentle, obedient, even cowardly Caleb. Caleb, she murmured my name, panic and fear creeping into her voice. I ignored her. Taking Sienna, I walked out of Nocturne under the awed, fearful, and curious gazes of the crowd. Outside the bar, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked quietly by the curb. The license plate was 5/8. The door opened. An old man in a black suit, hair white but spirit vigorous, stepped out quickly. He bowed 90 degrees before me with utmost respect. Sovereign, your subordinate is late. Please forgive me. It was Winston Graves, the true underground emperor of Chicago. At the entrance of the bar, those who had followed to watch the spectacle gasped, nearly kneeling on the spot. Elena, who had chased me out, saw this scene. She looked as if she had been struck by lightning, frozen in place. Winston Graves, the man who held this city in the palm of his hand, the man even her boss had to bow to, was bowing to Caleb, calling himself subordinate? An absurd thought began to grow wildly in her mind. Inside the Rolls-Royce, Sienna poured the decanted red wine and smiled. Sovereign, that move of yours scared the sister. Oh no, Miss Vance, quite badly. I lifted the glass, looking out the window at Elena's lost soul of a face. My eyes held no warmth. Scared, I sneered. This is just the beginning. 3 years of endurance exchanged for betrayal and humiliation. I would endure no longer. I would make her, make the Vance family, make everyone who looked down on me understand exactly what kind of existence they had been stepping on. I would make them regret ever being born. The car started smoothly, merging into traffic. I closed my eyes, leaning back into the soft leather, but my mind drifted to that rainy night 3 years ago. On his deathbed, my master handed me the sovereign seal of the syndicate, entrusting me with this colossal entity that possessed wealth and power to rival nations. But his final test was for me to marry into a second-rate family in Chicago, the Van Cess, as an ordinary man, and endure for 3 years. He said only by experiencing true mediocrity in the bottom tier of society could I better control the pinnacle of power. The 3-year term ended tomorrow. I had thought that if Elena had given me even a shred of warmth or respect during these 3 years, I wouldn't mind granting her a lifetime of glory once the term was up. Unfortunately, she didn't. She used the most decisive method to sever the last bit of sentiment between us. I returned home. The so-called home was a small guest house the Van Cess had assigned to me in the suburbs, beautifully termed as our couple's world, but in reality, it was just to keep me from being an eyesore in the main Vance estate. I unlocked the door. Elena followed me in. She had driven after me, her face pale, eyes complicated. "Caleb." She stood at the door, looking at me, voice hoarse. "Can we talk?" "Nothing to talk about." I walked straight to the living room, took the prepared divorce agreement from a drawer, and tossed it on the coffee table. "I've already signed. Read it. If there are no issues, we process it tomorrow." Elena looked at the agreement, her body swaying. Just then my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, Martha Vance. I put on speaker. As soon as it connected, Martha's shrill, acid voice exploded out. "Caleb, you useless waste. Where the hell did you die to? Do you know what you did today? You've completely humiliated the Vance family. You dare find a woman outside? You dare hit Julian? Do you know who Julian is? He's our Elena's noble patron. You offended him, and the whole Vance family will suffer because of you. I'm telling you, go immediately and kneel before Julian to apologize. Beg his forgiveness. Otherwise, get the hell out of the Vance family." Martha roared on, giving me no chance to speak. Elena stood to the side, her face alternating between green and white. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but she remained silent. I listened to the screaming on the phone, my face expressionless. When Martha finally tired herself out and paused for breath, I spoke calmly. "Are you finished?" Martha paused. What is that attitude? "If you're finished, I'm hanging up." I disconnected the call. The living room fell into a terrifying silence. Elena looked at me in disbelief. Was this the Caleb who usually didn't dare let out a fart when her mother scolded him for half an hour? He actually hung up. Before she could react, I spoke again, my voice cold and devoid of emotion. "Pack your things and move out, or I can help you throw them out." "Caleb, you're going too far." Elena finally exploded. She pointed at me, chest heaving. "This is my home. My parents bought this house. What right do you have to make me move out? You're home." I reacted as if I'd heard a joke. I took a set of keys from my pocket and tossed them on the table. Attached was a miniature model of a property deed. "Open your eyes and look clearly. Whose name is on the deed to this house?" "Elena Froze." She subconsciously picked up the keys and looked at the name. "Caleb Stone. This. How is this possible?" she cried out. "My parents paid for this house in full." "Did they?" I opened the liquor cabinet, took out a bottle of Romanicani, poured myself a glass, and gently swirled the scarlet liquid. "You can call your father and ask. 3 years ago, who gave him a $5 million interest-free loan to buy this villa and pay off the company's debts?" Elena's face went sheet white instantly. 3 years ago, the Vance family business had indeed faced a massive liquidity crisis, teetering on bankruptcy. Just as the family was desperate, her father suddenly secured a huge sum of $5 million. It not only brought the company back to life, but allowed them to buy this villa. Her father had claimed a mystery VIP helped them. Could it be? A thought that made her scalp tingle rushed in her mind. She didn't dare think further. Like a madwoman, she pulled out her phone and dialed her father, Robert Vance. The call connected quickly. Elena asked with a trembling voice, "Dad, 3 years ago, that $5 million. Who gave it to us?" Robert on the other end was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Elena, it's in the past. Why ask about that? Tell me, who was it?" Elena skreget. It was Caleb." Robert's voice was full of helplessness and exhaustion. He borrowed it from a war buddy. The condition was letting him marry into the Vance family. Boom! The phone slipped from Elena's hand, smashing onto the floor. She was completely stupefied. So, it wasn't Caleb climbing the social ladder into the Vance family. It was the Vance family selling their daughter's marriage to be pulled back from the brink of bankruptcy. And Caleb, the live-in husband they had despised and humiliated for 3 full years, was the Vance family's true savior. How laughable. How ironic. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Elena looked at me, so lost, tears breaking the dam. Tell you, I took a sip of wine, my eyes full of mockery. Tell you, so you could keep your ridiculous sense of superiority while enjoying my contributions with peace of mind? All while flirting with your white knight on the side. I wasn't. Elena instinctively tried to defend herself. Enough. I didn't want to hear any more nonsense. For the sake of the last 3 years, I'm giving this house to you. But starting tonight, I don't want to see you here. My words were like knives stabbing into Elena's heart. She looked at my cold, resolute face, and a panic she had never felt before rose within her. She felt she was losing something incredibly precious. The next morning, I didn't go to City Hall. For a woman as self-important as Elena, a simple divorce was too easy on her. I wanted her to watch everything she possessed be stripped away bit by bit. I wanted her to pay the price for her stupidity and betrayal in endless regret and despair. I went to the tallest building in the Chicago CBD, the Spire. The top floor, the headquarters of the syndicate's Chicago branch. Winston and Sienna were already waiting. Sovereign, both bowed. I walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the bustling metropolis beneath my feet. In the 3 years I've been dormant, Chicago has produced some interesting people and events. Winston looked ashamed. It is my failure in supervision, allowing stray cats and dogs to act presumptuously before you. Don't blame yourself. I waved my hand. The 3-year term is up. It's time to remind Chicago of the syndicate's authority. I paused, then asked, which company does Elena work for? Sienna answered immediately. Reporting to Sovereign, Elena Vance is the marketing director at Lumina Group. It's an old-school Chicago enterprise, mainly in cosmetics, but management has been poor lately. They are seeking external financing. Coincidentally, their biggest potential investor is our subsidiary, Apex Holdings. Oh, the corner of my mouth hooked into a cold sneer. Interesting. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Elena's. It rang for a long time before she picked up. Her voice was tearful and exhausted. Caleb, why didn't you come to City Hall? I changed my mind, I said lightly. No divorce for now. Elena on the other end froze. Then a trace of secret joy rose in her heart. She thought I still cared, that I couldn't bear to leave her. Caleb, listen to my explanation. Julian and I didn't call to hear your explanation. I cut her off directly. I called to notify you of something. You are fired. What did you say? On the other end, Elena's voice was full of shock and absurdity, as if hearing the century's biggest joke. Caleb, are you still asleep? Do you know who owns Lumina Group? Do you know how much effort I put in to become director? You say I'm fired? Who do you think you are? The chairman of Lumina? Her tone returned to that familiar, high and mighty mockery. Clearly, the shock of last night was huge, but not enough to overturn her deep-rooted perceptions. She might believe I knew Winston Graves, that I had some background she didn't know, but the idea that I could fire a group director with one sentence? She didn't believe it for a second. You'll find out soon enough. I wasted no more words and hung up. Sienna. Sir. Notify Apex Holdings. Terminate all partnership negotiations with Lumina Group immediately. I watched the clouds roll by outside the window, my tone flat. Also, I want Lumina Group bankrupt within 3 days. Yes, Sovereign. A gleam of excitement flashed in Sienna's eyes as she turned to execute the order. Winston bowed. Sovereign, why go through such trouble for a mere Lumina? One word from me, and it vanishes from Chicago. No. I shook my head. That's too easy on them. I want Elena to watch with her own eyes as the career she takes such pride in walks step by step toward destruction because of her stupidity. I wanted her to understand that everything she pursued was, in my eyes, nothing more than a bubble easily burst. Lumina Group, Director's Office. Elena hung up the phone, trembling with rage. Lunatic. Absolute lunatic. She felt Caleb must have been mentally damaged by the shock last night. Firing her? Laughable. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. The priority was the Apex Holdings deal. It concerned Lumina's survival and her own promotion. She fixed her makeup, picked up the proposal she had prepared, and walked into the chairman's office. Chairman Walsh, regarding the cooperation with Apex. Chairman Walsh, a man in his 50s, was sweating profusely while on the phone, his face pale as paper. Mr. Lee, please reconsider. Lumina is very sincere. What? Terminating cooperation? Why? Weren't we agreeing just fine? Hello. Chairman Walsh put down the phone weakly, looking as if all his strength had been drained. He slumped into his chair. Elena's heart skipped a beat. A bad premonition. Chairman, what happened? Walsh looked up, eyes unfocused. It's over. It's all over. Apex Holdings unilaterally terminated all cooperation with us. What? Elena turned pale. How can that be? Mr. Lee was satisfied with our plan yesterday. I don't know. I don't know. Walsh muttered, looking so lost. Just then his phone rang again. It was the group's largest raw material supplier. Chairman Walsh, our cooperation ends here. Settle all payments immediately, or we see you in court. Chairman, the bank notified us they're calling in the loans. Our cash flow. Chairman, our biggest distributors have all unilaterally canceled contracts. One phone call after another, like cursed talismans, arrived in rapid succession. In less than half an hour, the entire Lumina group, this seemingly solid skyscraper, was teetering on the edge of collapse. Chairman Walsh was completely bewildered. He couldn't figure out which god he had offended to suffer such a devastating blow. And Elena, standing to the side listening to the calls, felt her hands and feet go ice cold. Her blood seemed to freeze. She remembered what Caleb had said on the phone 30 minutes ago. You are fired. You'll find out soon enough. A guess that made her soul tremble floated into her mind. Could it be? Was all of this really done by Caleb? No, impossible. She shook her head frantically, unable to accept this reality. Caleb was just a waste, a live-in husband. How could he have such heaven-reaching power? It must be a coincidence. Yes, a coincidence. Chairman, Elena forced herself to sound calm. We can't just sit and wait for death. I'll go to Apex Holdings and find Mr. Lee. I'll beg him personally. There must be room to salvage this. She didn't believe it. She had to verify it herself. She rushed out of the office like a madwoman, drove her car, and sped straight to the skyscraper housing Apex Holdings. However, she couldn't even get past the lobby. Apologies, Ms. Vance. Without an appointment, you cannot enter. The receptionist blocked her politely but distantly. I'm Elena Vance from Lumina Group. I have an appointment with you, Mr. Lee. Elena shouted hysterically. Mr. Lee said he is seeing no one today, especially people from Lumina Group. Just as Elena was tangling with the receptionist, a figure she recognized stepped out of the elevator. Sienna Fox, the woman she had called trashy last night. At this moment, Sienna had changed into a sharp business suit. Her hair was pinned up high, gold-rimmed glasses sat on her face, and she radiated a cold aura that said stay away. Behind her trailed a group of suited elites, each treating her with absolute reverence. President Fox. The receptionist bowed immediately. President Fox? Elena's brain buzzed and went blank. Sienna walked up to her and stopped, looking down at her with eyes full of contempt and mockery, like looking a laughable ant. Ms. Vance, don't waste your energy, Sienna said, her voice not loud but clearly reaching Elena's ears. Apex Holdings, including everything you see here, is just an insignificant toy in my boss's name. And you, and your Lumina Group, aren't even qualified to be toys. She paused, leaning into Elena's ear, whispering so only she could hear. Forgot to tell you, my boss. His name is Caleb Stone. Kneel. Sienna's words were like a lightning bolt from the nine heavens, striking deep into Elena's soul. Her brain crashed completely. Apex Holdings belongs to Caleb? This massive entity that held the life and death of countless Chicago businesses was just an insignificant toy to him? The seductive mistress from last night was actually the president of Apex. Absurd. Subversive. She felt her understanding of the last 20-plus years shatter into dust. She stared blankly at Sienna, lips trembling, unable to say a word. Sienna admired her soul-lost appearance, a cruel smile hooking the corner of her lips. Ms. Vance, do you still think I'm a trashy woman now? Do you still think our sovereign, oh, your husband Caleb, isn't good enough for you? You thought you married a stone, not knowing it was a mountain of gold covered in dust. You pushed the gold mountain away with your own hands, smugly thinking you got rid of a burden. Tell me, aren't you pathetic? Every sentence was a sharp knife, slicing Elena's self-esteem and pride into pieces. She went pale as paper, her body swaying. No, I don't believe it, she muttered, grasping for the last straw. You're all lying to me. This is an act you're putting on together. Caleb is a loser. How could he be? Loser? Sienna sneered. She ignored Elena, turning to her assistant. Pass the order. Accelerate the acquisition of Lumina. I don't want to hear that name in Chicago by tomorrow morning. Yes, President Fox. With that, she led her team past Elena, never looking back. The feeling of being completely ignored was more painful than any insult. Elena collapsed to the floor. People walked by, pointing, but she heard nothing. Only Sienna's cold words echoed her mind. Aren't you pathetic? Yes, pathetic. So pathetic. She thought of the last 3 years, her coldness and disdain toward Caleb. She remembered her mother cursing him while he silently lowered his head. She remembered last night, snuggling into Julian, looking at Caleb with undisguised disgust. It turned out the clown was her. She thought she was a high-flying swan, not knowing that in front of a true dragon, she wasn't even an ant. Regret, endless regret, drowned her like a tide. Why did she go to that bar? Why did she meet Julian? Why did she treat Caleb that way? If she had been just a little better to him, given him a smile, a word of care, with a person standing beside him now, enjoying that supreme glory, be her, instead of Sienna? Tears slid silently from her eyes, carrying a bone-chilling cold. Meanwhile, at the Vance estate, Robert and Martha were going insane. In a single morning, all industries related to the Vance family suffered devastating blows. Partners canceled contracts, banks called loans, stocks plummeted. Robert used all his contacts, made every call, and the answers were either dial tones or helpless sighs and vague warnings. Old Vance, give it up. You offended someone you shouldn't have. Someone he shouldn't have? Robert racked his brain, but couldn't think of who. Until he received a call from a big shot in the city, someone he usually had to look up to. The big shot said one sentence. That son-in-law of yours is a dragon from the heavens. Your family had no eyes. You brought this sin on yourselves. Robert was struck by lightning. Caleb. It was Caleb again. He finally understood. Everything was because of Caleb. Martha, you stupid woman. Robert hung up and slapped Martha hard across the face. It's all you. You destroyed the Vance family. Martha was stunned, clutching her face. Robert, you dare hit me? Are you crazy? I am crazy. I think you're crazy. Robert's eyes were red, like an enraged lion. Do you know who Caleb is? He is the VIP. He is the Vance family savior. But you? How did you treat him for 3 years? You treated him like a dog. Now look, karma is here. The family is finished. Finished. Martha froze. Caleb was the VIP. The way she had cursed for 3 years was the true big shot. No. Impossible. She slumped to the floor, soul gone. Just then, the door was pushed open. Elena walked in like a walking corpse. Elena, tell your father. What is happening? Martha saw a savior and crawled over to grab Elena's leg. Elena looked at her chaotic parents, a tragic smile on her face. Mom, Dad, we were wrong. We were all wrong. We took a dragon for a dog, and we pushed him away with our own hands. Robert looked at his daughter's despair, and his last hope shattered. He sat on the sofa, aging 10 years in an instant. Over. It's really over. No, there's still a chance. Martha suddenly screamed. Elena, you and Caleb aren't divorced yet. You're still his wife. Go beg him. Beg him to forgive us. If you bow your head, he'll definitely soften. Elena smiled miserably. Too late, Mom. It's all too late. Not too late. Robert jumped up, hope reigniting in his eyes. Right. As long as you are married, there is a chance. Elena, go now. Go beg him. Even if you have to kneel. Beg him back. For the family's survival. He didn't care about face anymore. Elena looked at her frantic parents, her heart desolate. Even now, they were only thinking of how to use her to salvage the family's losses. But did she have a choice? She took out her phone, shaking, and dialed the number she used to detest. It connected. What is it? Caleb's cold voice came through. Elena took a deep breath, using all her strength to squeeze out the words. Caleb, where are you? I want to see you. The spire. Top floor. Click. Elena didn't hesitate. She turned and left. Robert and Martha scrambled to follow. The family of 3, carrying different emotions, arrived at the tallest building in Chicago. When they took the private elevator to the office overlooking the city, they saw the man they had despised to their bones. Caleb stood with his back to them, facing the massive window, his posture straight as a pine. Hearing footsteps, he slowly turned around. His gaze was calm, yet carried an invisible, suffocating pressure. Robert and Martha's legs went weak. They nearly knelt on the spot. Elena looked at this face, familiar yet strange, her heart spasming in pain. She walked step by step to Caleb. Then, under her parents' shocked gazes, her knees gave way. Thud. Caleb, I was wrong. Please, give me one more chance. Elena knelt on the cold marble floor, head lowered, her black hair falling to cover her tear-streaked face. She laid down all her pride and ego, using the humblest posture to beg for my forgiveness. Behind her, Robert and Martha didn't dare breathe, shaking like leaves. The scene before them was too much of shock. The man who used to be meek in their home now stood there emitting an aura of a king ruling the world. I looked down at the kneeling Elena. My heart held no waves. It almost felt laughable. If you knew this would happen, why act that way before? Chance. I spoke slowly. My voice wasn't loud, but hit their hearts like a sledgehammer. I gave you chances. The day we married, I gave you chance. I asked if you wanted to build a life with me. You said you were just fulfilling your grandfather's dying wish and told me not to be delusional. On our first anniversary, I cooked a full meal and waited all night. You told me impatiently on the phone that you were with a client. Later, I found out it was Julian's birthday. Last year, when you were sick, I stayed at the hospital for 3 days and nights without changing clothes. When you woke up, your first sentence was, "Why are you here? Seeing you is annoying." With every sentence, Elena trembled more, her face paler. These details she had ignored or forgotten were now sharp blades slicing her heart repeatedly. He remembered. He wasn't without effort. Her heart had just been blinded by grease, unable to see. 3 years. Over 1,000 days and nights. My voice grew colder. I gave you countless chances, Elena. It was you who pushed them away, one by one, with your own hands. Now, you kneel here and ask me for another chance? I leaned down, gripping her chin, forcing her to look into my eyes. Do you think you deserve it? Elena looked into the unmelted ice and mockery in my eyes. Her last hope shattered. She knew it was irreversible. Caleb, you ungrateful wolf. Martha finally couldn't take it. Seeing her daughter humiliated, her maternal instinct overcame her fear. She screamed and charged. The Vance family fed you for 3 years. This is how you treat Elena? Do you have no conscience? She clawed at my face. Presumptuous. Winston appeared like a phantom, blocking me. With a single shout, he shattered Martha's nerves. She stumbled back and fell on her, but dared to disrespect the sovereign? Do you want to die? Winston's eyes were vicious, radiating killing intent. Martha was terrified out of her wits. Her pants grew warm. She had wet herself. The smell of urine spread through the office. Robert turned pale. He rushed to grab Martha, then felt his knees with a thud, kowtowing repeatedly. Mr. Stone, sovereign, I was blind. I failed to teach my wife. Please be the bigger man. Spare the Vance family this once. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Thump, thump, thump. He slammed his head until his forehead bled. The office was staging a farce both tragic and ridiculous. I frowned in disgust. Winston, throw them out. Yes. Winston grabbed the limp Robert and Martha like he was picking up chickens and dragged them out. Only Elena and I remained. She looked up, eyes blurry with tears, full of despair. Caleb, I'm begging you. For the sake of 3 years as husband and wife, spare my family. Everything is my fault. Come at me. Don't involve them. Even now, she pleaded for her family. Pity that this familial love seemed laughably cheap to me. Husband and wife? I sneered. Elena, ask your conscience. In 3 years, did you fulfill the duty of a wife for a single day? When your mother pointed at my nose and cursed me, where were you? When your relatives and friends mocked me in public, where were you? Last night, when you snuggled with Julian and watched everyone humiliate me, where were you? My voice grew sterner with each question. Elena was speechless, only able to cry. You talk to me about marriage now? Don't you find it funny? I stood up, walked to the desk, and pulled the divorce agreement from the drawer again. This is your last chance. I pushed the papers toward her. Sign it, and I might consider leaving the Vance family a path to survival. If you don't sign. My gaze turned grim. I don't mind making the name Vance disappear from Chicago entirely. Elena stared at the agreement. Black ink on white paper, cold and ruthless. Sign, and she and Caleb were finished. But the family might survive. Don't sign, and Caleb would bury the entire family for her stupidity. Did she have a choice? No. From the moment she stepped into that bar, from the moment she chose Julian over Caleb, she had lost completely. Tears dropped onto the paper, smearing Caleb's signature. Her hand shaking, the pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Finally, on the line for wife, she signed her name. Elena Vance. When the last stroke fell, she felt her soul emptied out. 3 years of marriage ended in such a wretched way. Good. I put away the agreement, not looking at her again. I pressed the intercom. Sienna, come in. Sienna entered quickly. Sovereign, you can stop the acquisition of Lumina Group, I said lightly. I promised her to leave the Vance family a way to live. Elena's eyes flashed with a faint light. However, my next words dropped her into an ice cave. But I do not wish to see anyone from the Vance family in Chicago ever again. Sienna understood immediately. Understood. I will handle it. They will leave Chicago dignifiedly and never return. Never return. This meant the Vance family's roots in Chicago would be pulled up. They would be forced into exile, starting over in a strange place. Although not an execution, for the Vances who were used to luxury, what was the difference? Caleb, you. Elena looked up sharply. This is my greatest mercy. I interrupted coldly. Elena, you should thank yourself for signing today. Otherwise, your fate would be 100 times worse than Julian's. Mentioning Julien, Elena stiffened. What happened to him? Oh, forgot to tell you. I spoke as if remembering a trivial matter. Because of malicious fraud, tax evasion, and illegal fundraising, the evidence is solid. He'll likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Also, he seems to have offended someone he shouldn't have inside. His limbs were broken in the detention center. I narrated calmly. Elena felt a chill rush from her feet to her skull. She finally realized what a terrifying demon she had provoked. This man could not only bankrupt you, but make you beg for death. You can go. I issued the eviction order. Remember, you have 24 hours. If you were still in Chicago at this time tomorrow. I didn't finish the sentence. The grim implication was self-evident. Elena stood up, soul lost, moving like a puppet without strings. Step by step, she walked out of the office that would haunt her with regret for the rest of her life. The moment the door closed, she couldn't hold on anymore. She slid down the wall to the floor, letting out a suppressed, painful sob. Regret. Endless regret gnawed at her insides like venomous snakes. She had lost the most excellent man in the world, who should have been hers. She had caused her family to be exiled, their future uncertain. Everything she cherished, career, love, family, had turned to bubbles overnight. And it all stemmed from her blindness, her laughable pride, and her stupidity. If time could turn back. But there are no ifs. Inside the office, Sienna watched the door close. Sovereign isn't letting her go too easy on her. Death is too easy. I picked up my tea and blew on it gently. Let her live. Let her live every day in endless regret, watching me stand at the peak of the world while she can only look up from the mud. That is the cruelest punishment. Sienna's eyes shone with admiration as she bowed. The sovereign is wise. I said nothing more, looking out the window. The sky over Chicago had cleared. The 3-year term was over. The dragon had returned. It was time for this city and this world to change masters. The Vance family disappeared from Chicago overnight. They sold all assets, dismissed servants, and left the city they had lived in for decades with their tails between their legs. No one knew where they went, and no one cared. In this dog-eat-dog world, the collapse of a second-rate family was like a small ripple in the ocean. Lumina Group was acquired by Apex Holdings for a symbolic price, reformed, and revitalized. Julian's sterling capital became history. He was sentenced to life in prison. Chicago seemed to return to calm. But everyone in the upper circles knew the sky had changed. A mysterious, powerful existence had descended, and my name, Caleb Stone, became a taboo subject in high society. They didn't know my true identity, only that this man was untouchable. After handling the Vance affair, my life returned to its proper track. No more playing the submissive husband. I resumed command of the syndicate. This massive commercial empire began expanding globally with even greater ferocity under my hands. Sienna, as my deputy, was busy every day, but her smile was brighter than ever. Sovereign, the Europe branch, submitted the new energy plan for your review. Sovereign, the royal family in the Middle East requests a meeting next week regarding oil cooperation. Sovereign, news from North America. The tech giants seem to be plotting against us in secret. I sat in my office, systematically handling affairs from around the globe. Every decision could influence trillions in capital and the fate of countless people. This was the life I was meant to have. Power, wealth, status. Things the world dreamed of were mere playthings to me. Occasionally, late at night, I would think of Elena. No hate, no love, just indifference. She was like a pebble I stepped on during my journey, a momentary annoyance kicked aside. We were people of two different worlds. One day, while I was reviewing a file, Winston walked in. Sovereign, someone wishes to see you. Who? She says her name is Lily Archer. I looked up, a trace of surprise in my eyes. Lily Archer. I hadn't heard that name in a long time. She was the only friend I had before marrying into the Vance family. The only woman who knew my true identity back then, but treated me as an ordinary friend without fear. 3 years ago, to fulfill my master's test, I left without saying goodbye and cut all contact. I didn't expect her to find me here. Let her in. Moments later, a woman in a simple, elegant dress entered. Her temperament was gentle as water. Seeing me, she froze, Then tears welled in her eyes as she smiled. A smile of reunion. Caleb, long time no see. Her voice was as gentle as always. Lily's appearance was like a spring breeze, blowing away the last haze left by the Vance family. Long time no see. I stood up, showing my first genuine smile in 3 years. How did you find me? If you want to find someone, there's always a way. Lily blinked, a bit playful. But you, what did you run off to for 3 years? Vanished like vapor. I thought aliens took you for research. I laughed and gestured for her to sit. Sienna brought 2 coffees. Seeing Lily, a trace of wariness and hostility flashed in Sienna's eyes. A woman's intuition is always sharp. You can go, I told Sienna. Yes. Sienna retreated respectfully, glancing deeply at Lily before closing the door. Your secretary doesn't seem to like me, Lily said, holding her coffee. Don't mind her. I waved my hand. How have you been these 3 years? Okay, I guess. Open a small art gallery, scraping by. Lily spoke lightly, but I knew with her family background, she didn't need to worry about money. The Archers were a top-tier family in Chicago, old money with a stellar reputation. We talked for a long time, from memories to the last 3 years. I didn't tell her about the Vance family, only that I was on a special training mission for my mentor. Lily didn't pry. She just listened quietly, smiling occasionally. Her gentle gaze made me feel incredibly comfortable. With her, I could relax. Not as the sovereign, just as Caleb. By the way, Lily seemed to remember something, pulling a gold-stamped invitation from her bag. My grandfather's 80th birthday is next week. Do you have time to come? I took the invitation. Elder Arthur's birthday banquet? Of course I'll go. The old man had given me guidance in the past. I owed him a visit. Great, Lily beamed. Grandpa will be so happy to know you're back. A week later, the Archer estate. Guests gathered like clouds. The who's who of Chicago had arrived. I didn't take the flashy Rolls-Royce, opting for a regular Audi sedan and casual clothes, keeping a low profile. I didn't want to upstage the birthday host. However, I underestimated my current influence. When I appeared at the banquet hall entrance, the noisy hall instantly quieted. Countless eyes focused on me. Awe, fear, curiosity, flattery. Is that Mr. Stone? God, he actually came. Quick, notify the family head. The tycoons who usually held their heads high were now as nervous as subjects meeting an emperor. I frowned, slightly displeased. Just then, Lily ran over in a pale, purple gown, naturally linking her arm with mine. You're finally here. Grandpa has been asking about you. Her appearance and our intimacy made everyone gasp. The Archer heiress was this close to the mysterious Mr. Stone? The Archer family status was about to skyrocket. Amidst the complex gazes, Lily led me through the crowd to the main seat. A spirited, sage-like old man sat there. Arthur Archer. Grandpa Arthur. I bowed slightly. You brat, finally decided to come back. Arthur laughed, standing up to pat my shoulder affectionately. Come, have tea with me inside. Haven't played chess with you in ages. My hands are itching. He pulled me into the inner hall, leaving the envious crowd behind. The banquet hall exploded with whispers. Everyone knew that from today on, the sky of Chicago had the name Archer written next to Stone. Meanwhile, in an inconspicuous corner of the hall, a woman in a server's uniform, face haggard and eyes dim, stared blankly at my retreating back. In her hands, she held a tray. It rattled slightly from her trembling. It was Elena. I didn't know why Elena was there. Perhaps it was fate mocking her. In the inner hall, I had a great conversation with Elder Arthur. We played chess and discussed world affairs. The old man was truly wise. Caleb, Arthur said earnestly as I was leaving, you sit in a high position now with monstrous power. This is good. But remember, water can float the boat, but it can also capsize it. The higher you stand, the more you must guard your heart. I have learned. I bowed sincerely. Coming out, the banquet was ending. Lily walked me to the gate. Under the moonlight, she looked like an elf. Caleb, she said suddenly, voice nervous. Will you disappear again? I looked into her clear eyes and shook my head. No. Then, she gathered her courage. Do you have someone you like? I paused. Elena's regretful face flashed in my mind, instantly replaced by Lily's gentle smile. I was silent for a moment, then looked at her seriously. Before, maybe not, but now I think I've found her. Lily's face turned red as a ripe apple, lovely in the moonlight. She lowered her head shyly. Who is it? I smiled, not answering directly. I reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. It's getting late. Rest early. I turned and got into the car. In the rearview mirror, I saw Lily standing there, watching me leave. My lips curled into a gentle smile. Perhaps this was what love should be. Not far from the estate, a figure suddenly rushed out from the shadows, blocking my car. Under the headlights, that face, haggard, pale, written with humility and begging. Elena. Winston hit the brakes and looked back. Sovereign. I rolled down the window, looking at her expressionlessly. Something. Caleb. Elena ran to the window, hands gripping the door, tears flowing again. I saw you. With Ms. Archer. And my tone was icy. You match. Very well. She bit her lip, heart feeling cut by knives. I just wanted to see you one more time. You've seen me. Move. I showed no emotion. No. Elena suddenly became agitated. Caleb, I know I was wrong. I really know it. Give me one more chance, okay? I don't need a title. I don't need anything. I just want to stay by your side. Even as a servant, I'm willing. She cried heartbreakingly, humble into the dust. The once high and mighty Ice Queen was now like a beggar praying for alms. How tragic. Elena, I looked at her with a trace of pity. Do you know the biggest difference between you and Lily? Elena froze. 3 years ago, she knew my identity, yet she treated me as a friend, as an equal. You didn't know my identity, so you treated me like garbage to be trampled. Now you know who I am, so you run here wagging your tail. You never loved Caleb Stone. You only love the power and glory the title Sovereign brings. You and I were never people of the same world. Not in the past, not now, and certainly not in the future. Every word smashed her last fantasy. She let go weakly, collapsing on the ground, eyes glazed like a doll with its soul removed. I didn't look at her again. Drive. The car started, leaving her in the dust. In the mirror, her figure grew smaller and blurrier until she vanished into the night. After the Archer banquet, Lily and I officially started dating. Our relationship wasn't explosive, but like a gentle stream. She never interfered with the syndicate and never asked about my past. She was a flower that understood speech, making tea for me when I was tired, painting with me. With her, I felt a peace and warmth I hadn't known before. This was the feeling of family. With my support, the Archer family developed rapidly, becoming the top family in Chicago. And I poured my energy into the syndicate's global layout. Under my lead, the sleeping dragon awoke, sweeping the global market with thunderous momentum. My name, Caleb Stone, went from a Chicago taboo to a global business legend. Some called me the Shadow King, but most prefer to call me the Sovereign. 1 year later, Paris, France. A wedding of the century was held in an ancient castle by the Seine. The groom was me. The bride was Lily Archer. She wore a pure white gown, breathtakingly beautiful, her face glowing with happiness. Below sat top dignitaries, billionaires, and royals from around the world. These people, who could shake regions with a stomp of their feet, were just witnesses today, offering sincere blessings. The vows were simple. I looked into Lily's eyes. I, Caleb Stone, take Lily Archer to be my wife, for this life and all time, never to leave or forsake. Lily, teary-eyed, choked out, I, Lily Archer, take Caleb Stone to be my husband, for this life and all time, in life and death. We exchanged rings and kissed amidst the cheers. At that moment, the sun was perfect, the breeze gentle. I felt I owned the world. After the wedding, Lily and I began our global honeymoon. We saw the pyramids, the Aegean Sea, the Aurora Borealis, enjoying our world like an ordinary couple. One day, we arrived at a seaside town in Italy. It was beautiful and peaceful. We sat in an outdoor cafe, enjoying the afternoon sun. Suddenly, my gaze was drawn to a figure picking up trash on the beach nearby. It was a woman in dirty, worn clothes, hair withered and yellow, face haggard, looking a decade older than her age. Her movements were numb, mechanically picking up plastic bottles and cans into a woven bag. Under the sun, her shadow was stretched long, looking lonely and desolate. I recognized her. Elena. I didn't know why she had drifted here to live by picking trash. Maybe the Van Cess went completely bust. Maybe she couldn't handle the blow and wandered. But it had nothing to do with me. Her life, her ending, were her own choices. Lily noticed my gaze and looked over. She paused, then asked softly, should we help her? I shook my head, retracting my gaze and holding Lily's hand. No need. Everyone's fate is in their own hands. We aren't saviors. No need to interfere with others' karma. I looked at Lily's gentle profile and whispered, I only know that my fate was to meet you, fall in love with you, and spend the rest of my life with you. Lily blushed, leaning happily on my shoulder. Me too. The sun bathed us in warmth. On the distant beach, the hunched figure continued to numbly pick up trash, as if she would be doing so until the end of time. A single thought, worlds apart. As for my life, the sky is clear. Story complete.